Hello and welcome to Library Class. Nice to see you all again. This week we're going to be talking about folklore and giant vegetables, mostly. But to begin, we have a bit of unfinished business from last week. As you remember, we talked last week about Alexander Von Humboldt, and I asked if any of you would have questions for him. We did get a couple of questions in. One wanted to know why Alexander von Humboldt electrocuted 30 horses and mules. And secondly, asking, how did Alexander von Humboldt die? So we're going to ask him those questions in an exclusive interview, and I'll see you after that. Hello, today I'm very excited to be with Alexander von Humboldt. We've got a few questions from students, Mr. Humboldt. First of all, something about yes, electrocuting horses. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, the story of the electric eels. Yes, this is a very interesting story. So I was in the jungles of Venezuela, and I was very interested in the electric eels in the river. And I said to the guide, I must get my hands on an electric eel. And he said, be very careful, because if you hold an electric eel, you get a bad shock, you badly hurt yourself. But he had an idea. He said, you should put your horses and the bulls in the water, and they will get the shock, and then the eel will be exhausted with no shock left, and you can hold the eel in your hands. And I was very excited, so I threw the horses and the mules into the water, and they got a little bit electrocuted. One was unfortunately electrocuted to death, but the rest were fine, and the eel was exhausted, and I could take him out and look at him. So it was all right because it was for science.
Well, thank you very much. Our next question is a little awkward. When did you die, or how did you die?
Okay, well, it's very difficult to say for sure because I'm alive, and it's hard to be sure. But according to my scientific calculations, I would imagine I'd probably live until the age of 89. That's pretty good. With lots of work, maybe I'll die after a small stroke, but it looks pretty good for me. I've got many years left of exploring and finding things out. So there we are.
Well, Mr. Van Humboldt, it's been great. Thank you for
Van Humboldt.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yes, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. I'm off to do some more scientific work, and maybe see you again some other time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There we are. I think we can safely say there's a pretty exclusive interview. So there we go. I hope all your questions were answered. Now we're going to talk about something different, giant vegetables. In fact, Ms. Davis this week sent you a mystery involving some giant fruit. And you may not be aware, but actually growing giant fruit and vegetables is a hobby that many hundreds, maybe thousands of people around the world, I think particularly Britain and the United States, share. They're often counting country fairs, so people get into competitions to see whose fruit and whose vegetables are the most enormous. Now, one of the most popular categories for growing giant vegetables is pumpkins. And if you've ever had any success in trying to grow a giant pumpkin, well, you owe a thanks to this character.
Well, thank you very much. What a lovely thing to say. I was more meaning the man behind you, to be honest. Oh, yeah, that does make more sense in context. I agree. This man is Howard Dill, and nearly every giant pumpkin grown is connected in some way to a special breed he himself invented called Dill's Atlantic Giant Pumpkin. He created the seeds by mixing and matching from different species that he thought would make good giant pumpkins. This is called selective breeding. What you do is you take the pollen from one pumpkin flower that has qualities you like, maybe it's a really big pumpkin, and you put those bits of pollen into the flower of another pumpkin who has qualities you like. Maybe it's a really strong pumpkin. So the two of them together will make a strong, big pumpkin. There's a great animated video called How Seed Breeding Works. I'll put the link to that at the end of this video, so that could be the start of some further investigation for you.
Now, I wouldn't be much of a librarian if I didn't try to make a connection between giant vegetables and stories. And the king of giant vegetable stories has got to be the enormous turnip. Do you know the story about a family and their animals who have to pull a giant turnip out of the ground? If you don't know it, don't worry, I'll do a separate reading of it and I'll link to that video at the end of this video. But it's a really old story. It was collected in 1850 by a man called Alexander Afanasyev, who was I hope I got the pronunciation right, I suspect I didn't. He's a Russian collector of folk tales. He collected it in 1850, but the story may well have been hundreds of years older than that, so it's a pretty remarkable tale. There have been lots of adaptations of the story, lots of retellings, lots of fantastic illustrated editions and cartoons and all sorts of things, some of which you may well have heard yourself. And just to finish off, here's a picture of a genuine enormous turnip grown by a very proud gardener who's just won a giant vegetable competition. Right, well that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back next week with another video when we'll be talking about things that you really can't believe on the internet. Speaking of which, there were 2 photographs in today's presentation about giant vegetables and fruits that were in fact completely fake. Did you spot them? One was fairly obvious, and the other one was this one. Both fake. We'll be looking more at that next week. Before I go, I did promise you a couple of links. So, up here you have the link to the story of the enormous turnip, and up here you have the link to the video all about how seed breeding works. Click on those and have some more fun. Good luck discovering and exploring, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.